Senhor Presidente, muito obrigado. É um jovem. Conheci a sua mãe, que parece sua irmã. Conheci a família toda. Tem aqui já filha e neta para continuar a comunidade. Sinto-me em casa. Estamos aqui em Portugal. Estamos ao mesmo tempo nos Estados Unidos da América, mas em Portugal. Esta casa é uma casa portuguesa. E sinto-me duplamente em Portugal, porque pertenço, como tantos de nós, a uma família de imigrantes. Meu avô foi imigrante, meus pais foram imigrantes, um irmão foi imigrante, um filho foi imigrante e todos os netos vivem fora de Portugal. Isto é Portugal. É diáspora. Estamos em todo o mundo. Nós parecemos pequenos, mas somos enormes. E por isso o secretário-geral, and that's why, and now I'm going to think for a while, think of the youngest, and those deserve to understand those words, two. That's why the Secretary General of the United Nations is a Portuguese. That's why the Director General of Migration World Organization is a Portuguese. That's why so many European leaders were Portuguese, because we are all over the world. And we came to the United States. And there's the Secretary of State recalled. The founding fathers toasted with Madeira wine. You know why? Because the British used, the English at that time, used to toast with Oporto wine. So, in any case, it was Portuguese, but it was not Oporto, it was Madeira wine. And we must remember that being our oldest ally, England, we were the first country in the world to recognize the United States of America's independence. Portugal, and the first one to send an ambassador to Washington. It was Portugal. But in your case, you came from far away to this coast. Of course, some of you to the eastern coast, but here to the western coast. As great fish as you were, now you are everywhere in economic, social, cultural activity here. Our community is very powerful, and it started with this community here. In California, it was the first one. We're just celebrating now the first century of the chapel. Over 115 years. A community that is alive and young and powerful. It's a pride for us. It's a reason for gratitude. We owe you so much of history, of tradition, but also of present and future. Young generation that are learning the Portuguese. So many people coming from California to Portugal. The Secretary of State said it. 50% of visas this year, more than last year. In the last month of July, 186,000 Americans traveling to Portugal, and so many of them wanting to live there at least a part of the year. In one of the traditional festivals in the neighboring village of Lisbon, I went there the very last day, and you know, I used to take selfies. I learned it with your presidents, with President Obama, and then all of them, they decided to take selfies. I just copied your example. But I was surprised, because all of a sudden, not one, not 10, not 20, 120 in the very same evening, selfies with Americans. The majority from California, but some New Yorkers living in Lisbon. This means that our ties are not only historic ties, economic ties, social ties, are human ties. People come and go. It's up to you not only to keep this tradition, but to build the future. It's so important. We must be everywhere. Portuguese, Luso-Americans. We must be a strong community, and we know how strong you are. I receive every year those that you elect for the Congress and for the states, different states throughout the United States. And it's an increasing number of Portuguese and Luso-Americans from both parties. There you are, visiting Portugal, deepening our ties, our friendship. And this is a large credit we owe you, because you started it in the 19th century, where crossing the ocean was very difficult. Not just one, but two oceans. It was very, very hard. And here we are. Here we are, and we have, even in your basketball, a Portuguese player. Yes, well-known Portuguese player. So this means we are everywhere. We are strong. Apparently a small country, but a large, large country in our soul, in our history, but also in our future. Now that one is speaking so much of digital transition, we have a World Web Summit every year in Lisbon. People coming from all over the world. Now that one speaks a lot of energy transition, we have the renewables. 60% of our energy comes from renewables. And in 2030, it will be 80%. We are ahead. We are not just the old Portugal. We are the future. And not just the future in Europe, but in every continent where we are. In Northern America, in Southern America, in the Portuguese-speaking countries, spread also in Africa, in Asia-Pacific, with Eastern Timor. That's our power, our people, the Portuguese people. That's the real power of Portugal. As you, every Portuguese, woman, man, old, young, thinking different, because we are all different, and we accept it in Portugal, as you accept it here in the States, in California. So thank you for this very, very moving moment. I had to wait until I was 73, having lectured in American universities, but the other coast, not this coast. I'll be starting after my term to lecture here, who knows, in California. I don't know. I'm going to think about it at least a couple of months coming here. Well, my oldest grandson told me yesterday, he's studying in London, that he was changing to Berkeley. I was astonished because he's very conservative and Berkeley is very progressive. So he'll be shocked, but what else? What's the problem? He wants to come to Berkeley to spend the first semester next year. And I said, I'm going first. I'm going first to see what it looks like. And then it's your turn. Thank you for your past, thank you for your presence, thank you for your future. Vivam os Estados Unidos da América, viva o nosso querido Portugal!